Oh, hello. I am Kenny Polcari, your host of the party, and today is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and here I am broadcasting live from Palm Beach, but I'm not on the ocean today because it's really windy and the ocean is raging and there's too much noise there, so here I came out to the pool. You see the pool behind me, you see the sky is blue, a little bit of clouds, and now you hear the guy cutting the lawn naturally right when I'm trying to make the video. In any event, let's see what's happening today and what is it that you need to know, right? So earnings are stealing the spotlight. Yesterday, Google announced a 20-for-1 stock split after the bell, after they announced their earnings, sending the investors into a tizzy. PayPal missed, and their forecast is weak, and they took that stock down 16% yesterday and again down 16% this morning. Every report this morning so far that we've heard have beaten the estimates, and there have been about 12 or 15 so far that have come out. Yesterday, St. Louis Fed Chief Jimmy Bullard telling us that 5 rate hikes might just be a good bet. Wink, wink, hint, hint. OPEC is meeting today and oil prices are higher again. And what do we have for dinner tonight? We're having the Pan Roasted Salmon with a lemon herb butter that you are going to make and then use for a range of different recipes that you can use with chicken, beef, fish, pork, whatever. Okay, so stocks finished the day higher yesterday after chopping around for most of the day. Investors focusing completely on the slew of earnings that crushed estimates that were delivered prior to the opening, sending names like UPS up 14%, ExxonMobil up 6.5%, Stanley Works up 0.8%, Siri up 6%, Pulte Homes up 1%. And that set the tone for the morning, yet the broader market continued to chop in place for much of the day. In fact, it really traded around the flat line until 3 p.m. And then suddenly, the focus turned to the earnings due out post the close. Investors preparing for reports from AMD, Google, General Motors, and PayPal, and Gilead Sciences. And this caused the algos and investors to go all in as the expectation was for good reports. And that sent stocks higher into the final hour of trade. By the end of the day, the Dow added 275 points. The S&P's up 31. The NASDAQ rose 106 points, or 0.8%. The Russell added 23 points, and the transports gained 240 points, or 2.1%, far outbeating everybody else. The 10-year Treasury ended the day yielding 1.78%, which was down from 1.8%, and that also helped the mood just a little bit. In the last 4 days, just FYI, both the NASDAQ and the Russell have taken back nearly 8% of the losses suffered in January, while the transports have regained 6% of their January losses, as the tone has clearly changed, even if temporarily. Yesterday, both the value trade, SPYV, and the growth trade, SPYG, gained 0.8%, but value is still outperforming growth year to date. Now listen, here's a new one. The Direction 3x Bull ETF, SPXL, gained 20% in the last 4 days alone after getting clobbered in January, falling nearly 34%. The 3x Bear ETF, XPSX, has fallen 18% in the last 4 days as the market has risen after rising 33% in January during all that turmoil. Now remember, I want to just say something. Note that these are not long-term investment vehicles at all. They are meant to be strategic, and retail investors need to understand the risks associated with these leverage vehicles. The fact that they're 3 times leverage should be the first clue, because while it's exciting, the knife cuts both ways. So be very, very careful and use them strategically if you use them. As expected yesterday, Google completely blew the roof off the house. I mean, why are you surprised? Fourth quarter revenues at $75.3 billion in 3 months. That's up 32% year over year. The profits up 33%. And then they came out with a surprise announcement that Google, which trades at $2,700, is making it out of reach for many retail investors, announced that they're splitting the stock 20-1. And that's going to happen in July, and that's going to bring its price down to about $140 a share, give or take, because a lot can happen between now and then. In any event, it was well received, and the stock traded up 10% in the minutes after the announcement, up another 10% today, after ending the day essentially flat, right? Taking that stock right back to where it was on January 1st, before all the angst that sent the stock down 14% during the month. So everybody that panicked, oh my God, the end is coming, got to sell my stock, you made a mistake. Okay. Anyway, expect this to be the talk of the day as the business channels focus on the massive stock split and what that means for investors. Speculation running rampant this morning that they did this to win a spot in the legendary Dow Industrial Index, which only means that if they do that, somebody has to be replaced. So you figure out, if that's true, who that might be. Now, just from an optical perspective, it's very exciting, with many now wondering if Amazon, also a $3,000 stock, is set to make a similar announcement tomorrow when they walk the runway. General Motors and AMD yesterday afternoon beat their estimates, while Gilead and PayPal missed badly. And investors were quick to reward or punish in the moments after the announcement, taking General Motors up 1%, AMD up 11%, Gilead fell 4%, and PayPal lost 16%. The PayPal report was a stunner, and this morning, street analysts at Raymond James, Morgan Stanley, and BTIG are all cutting their estimates, which is really great because they're cutting their estimates after they missed. The stock's already down 16%. Hello, pay attention. In any event, today brings more exciting earnings news, right? JCI, BSX, Emerson, AbbVie, all pre-market. But much of the excitement is going to have to wait until after the close. Facebook, which is now Meta, is due to announce earnings at 4 p.m. today. Estimates expect them to announce $3.84 a share, but the whisper number is higher, and expect lots of speculation during the day, as many are going to try to surmise a better number after the Google report. Just to be clear, I don't expect Mark to disappoint at all. The stock is already quoted up $10 in the pre-market, but that could just be because futures are up and all the excitement around Google. Other names due out post to close are Qualcomm, MCK, and Met. These guys cutting the lawn are just killing me. Okay, talk of the Fed has, at least for today, yesterday, been banished to the back burner. Yesterday, St. Louis Fed President Jimmy Bullard suggested that 5 rate hikes during the year would not be a bad bet. All 25 basis point increases rather than the 6 or 7 hikes or moves of 50 basis points or more. Now, I'm in the 50 basis point camp, but maybe I'm wrong. Now, the big banks are still pushing for more, right? The Goldmans and the JP Morgans. None of the 6 Fed officials who have offered up an opinion lately has shown any signs of supporting that narrative, and that too has contributed to the feel-good mood as it attempted to ease some of the angst that's been created. In the end, the longer-term story is still about the Fed and the path forward, as I detailed yesterday. It's not out of the question to see the rally that we're seeing after the beating that stocks took in January. But get ready, because March is coming and that whole angst around the Fed move still exists. Eco data today includes mortgage apps, which are not a big deal, and ADP employment. Now, estimates are calling for an increase of 184,000 new jobs, which many think might be a bit high. Recall that Friday's report, the NFP report, is due out, and that's expected to show an increase of 150,000 new jobs. But the administration is already preparing for a miss as they try to paint what would be seen as a negative into a positive, right? In any event, I do not expect that the NFP report is going to drive the action in stocks at all, because it is what it is. No matter what this report shows, the Fed is moving. Even if the report is weaker than expected, we are too far down the road now for the Fed to suddenly pivot on one single data point. It would create more angst and frustration amongst investors, never mind, who are tiring of the narrative, never mind the loss of credibility that investors might feel if the Fed suddenly pivots on one data point. Makes no sense at all. U.S. futures this morning are up. Not a surprise after yesterday's announcement and after the announcement so far today, as they push the Fed conversation to the back burner. Dow futures up 56, the S&Ps are up 35, the Nasdaq's up 220, and the Russell's up 8 points. The 10-year Treasury's yielding 1.79%, up small, but this continues to tease higher. Remember, we're looking for 2.25 to 2.5 by year end, so we've still got 10 months to go. Oil, which is up 20% this year, continues to move higher. OPEC Plus is in a meeting today, and they're expected to maintain the plan, which is to raise production by 400,000 barrels a day. But our friends at Goldman Sachs suggest that maybe we could see a slight change in that plan due to the recent rally in oil prices. So prices gone higher, so maybe they'll produce a little bit more. Trying to, whether or not that puts pressure on prices or not, we'll see. I don't think it does. West Texas Intermediate is now trading at $88.50 a barrel ahead of that meeting. Supply reports are also due out today from the American Petroleum Institute, and analysts expect them to show an increase of 1.8 million barrels, which may put some pressure on prices, but I don't expect it to be very much at all. Demand is too strong, momentum is in their favor, and as long as the Russia-Ukraine issue continues, prices will remain elevated. If Vlad moves in and takes Kiev, then expect to see oil prices spike to $100 a barrel. If he doesn't, then you might see some relief, but again, I would expect that to be very short-lived. Energy, the energy ETF, which is up 22% year-to-date, continues to stun investors. It was up 3.5% yesterday alone, right? This on top of the 50% that was up in, it's up 22% this year, on top of the 50% it was up in 2021. Financials, the XLF is up 1.4% yesterday, leaving only those two sectors positive on the year. Every other sector is in negative territory, but it's early in the game. And if the Fed can manage the process, then maybe stocks will adjust in the second half of the year, because I still think the first 6 months are going to remain turbulent, right? European markets this morning are all up. Monetary policy decisions are due out of the ECB and the Bank of England tomorrow, and that's going to shape kind of investor reactions this week. Earnings are going to continue to drive the individual action, and the Russia-Ukraine situation is going to continue to drive the geopolitical conversation and the energy story. Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing absolutely nothing, both trading right where they were yesterday morning. Bitcoin's at 38,500, Ethereum's trading at 2750 as investors just try to assess kind of what's next in the crypto space. The S&P last night closed at 4546. This after trading as high as 45.50 and as low as 44.83. It's now taken back the longer-term resistance at 44.38. It's now kissing intermediate-term resistance at 45.67. A push up and through that level is going to give it enough momentum to take it back to its final resistance level, which is 46.30. All of that could happen in the next few days or the next few weeks. But let's not just don't forget that investors still have to deal with the rising rate environment, which in itself is not a bad thing. Stocks can do well as rates rise if they are rising due to a stronger economy versus rising to attack out of control inflation. And that's the issue. Why are rates rising? The answer you arrive at is going to drive your investment decisions. For me, they're rising to control this out of control inflation, which is why I'm still playing it safe. So until I get more clarity that inflation really isn't the problem, which I do not think it is, which I think it is, I would be a buyer on weakness and a holder on strength. I am not a seller in my long-term portfolio at all. I'm still in the camp that we have to test or attempt to test the lows created on January 24th, which is around 42.20 before this is over. So depending on where you are is going to dictate how you allocate new monies. Okay, so what do we have for dinner tonight? So we're going to do this very simple pan roasted salmon with lemon herb butter. And you're going to make the lemon herb butter. You can make herb butters out of a bunch of things and use them on a range of different dishes and meals that you make. But tonight I'm going to show you how to make the lemon herb butter, and then you can experiment. So for this, you need the salmon, you need salt and pepper, you need your favorite seasoning, you need a little bit of olive oil, you need the herb butter, which we're going to talk about. And then on the side, you're going to serve wild rice and spinach, right? You want to cook the wild rice just according to just cook the wild rice. You know how to make rice. I don't need how to tell you that. And the spinach, you just want to steam it, because then what you're going to do, steam it. Then you're going to, you season it with salt and pepper, and then you're going to add some of the lemon herb butter to the spinach. So it makes it clean, easy to eat, and gives it a different flavor, all right? So take the salmon out of the fridge. You want to rinse it on both sides, pat it dry, let it come up to room temperature. Brush it with a tiny, tiny bit of olive oil on both sides, and then season it with your with the salt, pepper, and your favorite seasoned salmoning. Or if you use the salmoning, don't use salt and pepper. Do one or the other. In a saute pan, you want to heat up about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Get the pan hot. You want to place the fillet skin side down so it sears. Once you do that, turn the heat down to medium and let it cook for about 6 minutes. Turn it over now and then cook the other side for about 3 minutes. Look, a general rule of thumb is that you should cook it for about 8 minutes per inch of thickness. But ultimately, you know how you like your salmon. Now, in a separate pan, you're going to steam some fresh spinach and then drain it. Add a bit of the herb. You're going to add a bit of the herb butter to the spinach, mix it up, and just let it melt in there. Once it's cooked, you're going to make a bed of spinach on the warm plate. You're going to place the salmon on top of the spinach, and then you're going to add a dollop of the herb butter on top of the hot salmon, right? Let it melt. You're going to put some wild rice on the side and serve this immediately. You should serve it with a glass of chilled white wine because that'll just finish it off nicely. Okay, so let's talk about the herb butters and the many ways that you can use them. An herb can be used to make any kind of herb butter, but you will get better results, bolder results, if you use parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, which reminds me of Simon and Garfunkel, right? They're always great. In fact, any seasoning that you can use for steak, chicken, or fish can be incorporated into a seasoned butter for use right now on your meal or for use later. You can keep it in the fridge, you can even keep it in the freezer. So if you make a lot of it, don't worry about it because you're not throwing it out. You can keep it. So now you want to start with a stick of room temperature butter. Do not melt it in the microwave because that tends to cook it, and then you don't want to do that at all. You want the butter just to be soft so you can use a spatula and mix it. Next, select the herbs you want to use. So for today's dish, we're using lemon zest, not the juice, just the zest. We're using dill, thyme, and garlic. You want to chop the herbs up finely. Remember, using only the zest of the lemon. Now with a spatula, start to mix the butter and add the herbs slowly. Don't over mix it because you're going to cause the butter to lose its texture. When complete, leave the herb butter out covered so that it's ready to use when you're ready to use it. If you make a lot of it, you can take some wax paint, make a log out of it, put it back in the fridge. You can even put it in the freezer for use at a later time, right? You don't have to worry about wasting it. You're not going to waste it, right? It's always, butter won't go bad. And if you keep it in the fridge, you keep it in the freezer, you can always use it later. Remember, you can use these flavored butters on a variety of dishes to augment the depth and tone of any dish you make. Use it on veggies, rice, meats, fish, chicken, whatever your pleasure. Be bold, experiment with different herbs and create a butter of your choice in any event. The day is, you can see the sky behind me is turning blue. The sun's coming out. It's a little bit cloudy, but it's still going to be about 75 degrees today. It's going to be, it will be warm. In any event, until tomorrow, take good care.